Hi everyone, my name is Ángela. I am a teacher and researcher at the University of León in Spain, and I'm here to present an implementation of lingua franca virtual exchange, and my presentation is Bridging Borders through Lingua Franca virtual exchange. So the main question now is, what is virtual exchange? Well, virtual exchange is an umbrella term which refers to many different approaches that focus on the engagement of groups of learners in extended periods of online intercultural interaction and collaboration with partners from very different cultural contexts or geographical locations, and this is most of the times integrated part of their educational programs and usually done under the guidance of educators or facilitators. And virtual exchange gained wider popularity after the COVID-19 pandemic, when many institutions and teachers and educators in general needed to use some kind of technology to connect learners with students in other parts of the world, or to continue the process of the internationalization of higher education. And this happened with virtual exchange, but also with virtual student mobility and blended intensive programs. All of these initiatives became much more popular, and this is mainly due to the fact that there are many benefits that can be derived from virtual exchange, for example, linguistic competence, but also the development of intercultural learning, intercultural sensitivity, and lots of different transversal or soft skills like time management or communication skills, problem solving, empathy, and many other soft skills that can be developed through the use of virtual exchange in higher education. There are many different European large-scale projects like Evolve, Evaluate, Valiant, and many other important organizations like Stevens Initiative and UniCollaboration, just to name a few, that are trying to advance the field of virtual exchange and do more research on this approach, on this pedagogical approach and this tool, in order to see what other benefits can be derived from it. And as I said, it's an umbrella term whose origins are in the term telecollaboration, and other terms have also come up and other approaches, and these are, for example, online intercultural exchange or collaborative online international learning, which is more often called COIL. We also have e-tandem and TED-tandem. There are lots of different terms that refer to very similar activities. And what is lingua franca virtual exchange? Well, lingua franca, as probably most of you know, it's a contact language, an auxiliary language, which is used for communication between groups of people who speak different languages. And research on English as a lingua franca started in the 80s with studies which challenged the idea of the native speaker and the effectiveness of teaching English based on the standards of the native speaker. And, well, it makes sense that if learners these days use English to communicate with other non-native speakers more often than with native speakers, we should prepare them to use English for communication in a lingua franca environment. Now, lingua franca virtual exchange therefore refers to the use of a shared target language, typically English, by non-native speakers as a common means of communication during a virtual exchange initiative, to work and collaborate to complete tasks or project work. And this is an example of a lingua franca virtual exchange implementation where 5 different partner teachers integrated the virtual exchange into their modules. And these teachers were in Spain, France, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Austria. Students were in many different disciplines in year 1 and 2. There were 90 different students who fully participated in the exchange. We trained them and we mentored them, and we recognized their work with 2 ECTS credits, and we assessed them with a reflective portfolio. We collected the data from these portfolios and we analyzed it using qualitative content analysis and the NVivo software. Now, what is the role of lingua franca virtual exchange in English as a foreign language education? What can students really gain linguistically by using English as a lingua franca in virtual exchange? One of the main findings is that students put their theoretical knowledge into practice, and an example of these is the following student quote. It was no longer just about completing a grammar exercise, but about truly communicating with people from different accents, speeds, and way of speaking. We also saw that students could notice accent variation, and they saw different ways of expressing humor and sarcasm. And we see that many students became more familiar with other accents like French accent, Turkish accent of speakers of English. Now, there was also a reduced focus on native speaker norms. Students realized that perfection was not the ultimate goal, but rather effective communication and mutual understanding. And we also saw that students experienced English as a global language instead of thinking that English was just one more subject at school or one more thing to learn, and they realized that valuable language learning can happen with both native but also with non-native speakers. We also saw that students realized mistakes were part of the learning process, and they became more comfortable and more confident with their English skills and with their fluency. They thought they were able to communicate, and that's what mattered to them. And we also saw there was peer-to-peer learning, so students shared vulnerability among them, and they shared their worries and their fears of using a second language with other speakers in real communicative settings, and these created a sense of empathy and connection between them and allowed them to learn from each other. We also saw that students became more strategic when using the language. They developed strategies in real time to communicate more effectively and appropriately, and they developed higher adaptability to a range of communicative environments, and these ultimately led to a development of their pragmatic competence. So, as a conclusion, we can observe that lingua franca virtual exchange can engage students in real-world communication and expose them to heterogeneous communication and the variability of English as a global language, unlike other VE approaches like the bilingual, bicultural virtual exchange, which may make students more aware of cultural differences. And it's also true that students can communicate effectively in English, even if their proficiency is limited. So we saw that even though students with lower levels could become more confident in their communication, and this resulted in a higher adaptability and confidence in their abilities, as well as greater comfort in intercultural interactions in general. We should highlight the potential of English as a lingua franca and English as a foreign language education, we should expose students to the challenges of global English, of global communication, and it's essential to provide pedagogical mentoring and reflective guidance so that students can take the most, make the most out of their virtual exchange initiatives, experiences. And of course, it is very important to raise awareness among language teachers of the realities of foreign language communication and guide all students and all teachers on how to reconcile with the English language teaching classroom. Thank you very much.